If you're somebody who's worried about oversaturation when it comes to book selling on Amazon, I can tell you have nothing to worry about because I've got great news. And that great news is that pretty much nobody is willing to put in the work. That's why I titled the video exactly that. There are so many people who, in all different types of book selling, whether that be thrifting books, bulk books, online book arbitrage, and any other type of book selling. There's so many people who come through the doors and so many people who head right out, a couple of days later, a week later, a month later, a year later, a couple of years later. And there's a lot of reasons why people leave. But I really think a lot of it just comes down to there's just not very many people on planet Earth really that are willing to take something for the long haul, decide that even if there's going to be obstacles or challenges, they're going to wade their way through it. They're going to make it. And yeah, it's one of the reasons why I'm never worried about teaching people how to do this because at the end of the day, I know that I can always outwork people, like plain and simple. And I'm not saying, 100% of people. I mean, there's people who quietly watch my YouTube channel. There's even people who don't watch my YouTube channel who are very successful booksellers who you'll never see, on YouTube because they're out there just doing the work. They're not, in the comment sections on YouTube or on the Amazon forums, writing comments about how Amazon doesn't care about us and they're the reason why they can't make any money. So, you know, even though again, a lot of people ask me that, it's like the number one question, but Joji, can we still sell books now? I mean, you're teaching everyone. I'm just worried that it's oversaturated. The plain and simple answer is that if you're willing to put in work, you're 100% going to be successful. And again, like I mentioned, people quit for so many reasons. I mean, let's talk about just a few of the many reasons. Probably the biggest one is when people sign up for an Amazon seller account, they're gated in a lot of the book category. And somebody goes, "Oh, can't sell books on Amazon. I'm gated. There's nothing that I can do." Right. And, the small percentage of people that are actually, willing to try to figure out how to get ungated will figure out a strategy for doing that. My recommendation for you is that if you are a newer bookseller and you're gated in most of the book category, well, obviously find the books that you can sell. That's as simple as whenever you come across a book, scan it with your Amazon seller app, look at the book, in Amazon Seller Central when you try to add it as a product. And if you can't sell it, well, see if you can request approval. Sometimes you can go through a three-step question process and you can get approved. Sometimes you can't, and you're just restricted on it. But, don't be one of those people that scans 5 books and goes, they're all gated, can't do it anymore, right? Those people, believe it or not, are actually very prevalent in the online space. The next biggest hurdle is getting buy box eligible. So some people might stick with this and okay, they'll send in maybe 50 or 75 books that they actually can sell. And then they'll just wonder, how come nothing sells? And I'm not buy box eligible. And, obviously the biggest reason why nothing is selling is because they just have a very small inventory, right? They're not constantly working on continuing to build their inventory and add new quality books into their inventory. Yeah, and then they just sit there and again wondering why nothing sells, and so, buy box eligibility never comes, and then they'll quit there. They're just like, "All right, I tried for 50 books, didn't win the buy box, and because I didn't win the buy box, I didn't sell anything." The reality was they didn't sell anything because they just didn't have very many books there. They need to have, 200, 500, 1,000, and, need to continually, build up that inventory so that you can become buy box eligible. Now, there are actually some people that will just send every book that they find and send it into Amazon. So they might use Scout IQ or Scoutly and just, if it comes up green, they'll just send it in without doing any other research. If it, scans red, they just will discard it and they won't leave it. They won't take it and send it to Amazon, but they'll send anything that turns green. And because they have a lack of understanding in Keepa, they'll just send a bunch of really valueless books into Amazon, wonder why they don't sell. And it's because they were unwilling to actually put in the work to learn how to read a Keepa graph. And so, again, that's probably one of the biggest reasons why people fail is because ironically, even though they're a bookseller, they don't know how to sell books. Like, they don't understand how to value a book properly. And so if that's somebody who's you, like, if it takes you more than a couple of seconds to know about, to know whether or not you should sell a book, then you need to go watch a Keep It tutorial because it really isn't that difficult. It's just a good teacher, somebody teaching you how to use or look at a Keep graph the right way, and then just repetitions, and then you'll start noticing patterns, and those patterns, are pretty prevalent, pretty obvious in terms of which books have value, which books don't have value, how often book sells or sell, well, whether or not a book does or doesn't sell, and so on. So That's a huge one. A lot of people just don't understand Keepa, are not willing to understand Keepa. Another one is that many people are unwilling to change, unwilling to change with the times. Amazon, the given is that there will always be changes no matter what. And so every step of the way, whenever Amazon announces a change, or not even Amazon, even if it's USPS, shipping rates go, "Oh," the shipping rates go up. Everyone's like, "Can't make it anymore." USPS raised their medium mail shipping rate by 35 cents at the base fee. I'm making that up. I don't know if that's actually what they do. Obviously, USPS always does increase prices every, so often. But the point is, something as little as that will cause people just to quit. Like, my model doesn't work anymore. Instead of trying to find a solution to the problem, their solution is to stop doing what they're doing altogether and shut everything down. And therein lies the next thing is that so many people are not solution oriented. They just react to what happens in a negative way and decide that whenever anything negative goes wrong, then it's just a brick wall that completely shuts you down, that there's no possible way to get through it over it. Whereas successful people in life are always going to think of a way, they're always going to try to think of a solution. They're always going to try to think of a way to come up with an answer to the problem. So it doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's, capacity limits. It doesn't, you know, um, matter if it's, part of the book category gets gated. It doesn't matter if there's just so many things that potentially could come or get into your way as an Amazon bookseller. So many things that can change from now until, next month or, 3 months from now or a year. And, I'm simply just going to be someone who's always going to try to find a solution to the problem. Whereas I don't think a lot of people are willing to do that. And it's again, just another reason why I think you know, I'm more than happy to share this with the world because for the few people who are able to do these things, are able to put in the work, are able to see these challenges as just part of the journey and figure out ways and, to get over them and find solutions to these problems, like those are the people that are going to end up succeeding. Another huge reason why people fail is just a lack of consistency. A lot of people get really, really excited. They might watch a bunch of my videos for a short period of time over, 1 or 2 weeks, binge everything, and then when it comes time to perform, when it comes time to put what they learned into practice, they may do so for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or 3 months or 6 months, but eventually they stop. And that's the thing that you have to understand is that most people will stop at some point. It's just a matter of when. It's not really a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. When is that person going to stop? And so, everyone is cut from a different piece of cloth, right? So, you have a large majority of people who are going to quit within a week. And then, and then a month, larger percentages of that population. And then 3 months, a larger percent of that population. How many people do you think from the top, from the first 100 subscribers of this YouTube channel, how many of them do you think still actively watch any of my videos or are an active book seller? I would say I'd be surprised if more than 3 out of the 100 people. I'd be surprised if more than 3% of the original 100 subscribers even watch, one of my last 5 or 10 videos and are still a bookseller on Amazon. Because really, that's just how many people move on from one thing to the next. Because a lot of people just, have shiny, what is it called? Shiny object syndrome, where there's always something new and better for them to try out, half-heartedly, not go all in, with 100% focus and intent. And yeah, it's a reason why they kind of just are never, very successful at any one thing, right? And this is why when people ask me, Joji, how come you don't sell other things? Why don't you do traditional OA? Why don't you try to go to wholesale? Why don't you try to do, Walmart? Why don't you try to do this or that? It's just because you don't need to do all that stuff to be successful. You only need to be really good at one thing to be successful in life. And in this case, I said I'm going to be really good at book selling. I'm going to be really good at creating YouTube content to help other people be booksellers. I'm going to be really good at creating, software to help people. That's what Victor Gallegos and I did. I'm going to be really good at just focusing on selling books. Because if I can just get rid of all the other noise in my life, I'm just focused on that one thing, I can spend a lot less time doing it because I just know I have a mission and a purpose of like, this is what I'm gonna be doing. Anything else I'm gonna block out of my head. I'll only need to do that and you can be successful. And that's the reality of it, is that the book market on Amazon is tremendously large. you can't even fathom how large it is. It's so much greater than you or me that we collectively have a very, very small dent. Like when I'm talking about the people watching this YouTube channel. So again, kind of going back to that original point, there's just a lack of consistency. There's a lack of willing to show up and do the work. And what's interesting about it is society says that you go 9 to 5, right? And you have a job and you wake up in the morning at 7:30, you're at work by 9 a.m. You do the, whole socialization at work, you do the lunch thing, and then you go home at 5 p.m. And then, you decompress and you wake up and do the same thing again. And then fast forward 45 years later, you may or may not retire, depending on whether or not you had, any sort of financial literacy and decided to, put money away for your retirement. And so in the 9 to 5 world, in our culture, people are consistent, but I think it's because the consistency is mended by society versus, when you're sitting here at your desk, like right now, it's 12:50 a.m. in the morning. There's nobody here telling me that I have to do this. I'm just doing it because I enjoy doing it and because I like doing it. It's a hobby, right? I mean, there's not any structure really. You have to create your own structure when it comes to being your own businessman, your own businesswoman. That's just the reality of it. So I know I'm kind of ranting on here, but I kind of want to give everyone who's still watching this the blueprint to success. And this is not just the blueprint to success in book selling. It really is just the blueprint to success in any type of business. And so let's go ahead and start with the first thing. The first thing is you have to understand the fundamentals of what you're selling. You have to understand the way that you make money. You have to understand how margin works. So in the book selling world, you have to understand Keepa because you have to understand when you're looking at a book and you have an opportunity to buy that book to resell it, you have to understand, is the book that I'm buying a good deal relative to what I know I can sell it for with a high probability? I'm not saying that anyone has 100%, success rate when it comes to making what I would call educated guesses like that, but certainly you can use historical data that's provided to you by Keepa and make very good educated guesses and be right 75, 80% of the time. And really, that's all you need to be wildly, wildly successful. If you can get 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 of your educated guesses right, you're going to be insanely profitable, right? And that's all you need. You don't be right 100% of the time. So the first tip that I have for you for just life in general to be successful, but also as a bookseller, and and specifically to the bookseller, you have to understand Keepa so that you know when a good deal is a good deal. And more importantly, you know when not a good deal is something you should leave behind and you shouldn't buy. Again, sort of generally to business and to life, it's understanding the mechanics of what you're doing. And it's just crazy to me. I cannot fathom how many booksellers there are on Amazon who have no idea what they're doing. Literally no idea, no understanding of what books they should be sending in, what they need to sell their books at to actually make money and so on. So understand Keepa. And I've got Keepa tutorials on my YouTube channel. You can literally just type in my name, Georgie Davenport, Keepa tutorial. I've done hour-long sessions where I'm willing to sit down and teach you exactly everything that you need to know when it comes to making an educated guess and being right 7 or 8 out of 10 times. Again, that's all you need to be wildly successful when it comes to, flipping books. The second blueprint for success is you need consistency. It doesn't matter what it is that you do in any business, in anything in life. If you want to become proficient, you want to become better, you need to show up and do the work. You need to every single day, or I guess it doesn't necessarily need to be every single day, but you need to, on a consistent basis, show up and do the work. Like I mentioned, so many people who watch my YouTube videos get really excited, and that's great. And they might buy books for, a week or 3 weeks or a month or 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or 2 years. But will they be here 5 years from now? Will they be here 10 years from now? Will they be here 20 years from now? And you're like, well, Joji, Amazon might not even be around, 3 years from now. And you're correct. That could be true. But I would bet that there's a much higher likelihood that Amazon will still be here, and outlast, the majority of people who are now booksellers on Amazon, just because, again, so many people are at some point, going to find a reason as to why they are no longer going to be consistent, whether that be life events happen, whether or not they think there's, grass which is greener on the other side, and there's other things that they can do, whether it's just distraction in life or other priorities, whatever it is. Just so many people are inconsistent, and if you have consistency and you show up and do work, you do the work every day. If you actually did buy 10 books a day, every single day for the next 20 years, you're going to be an insanely profitable business. And the last thing that you're going to need in this blueprint for success when it comes to really just, I mean, not just Amazon, but any business at all, is resiliency. It's the willingness to adapt to change. It's the willingness to not let an obstacle or a new challenge be a brick wall, as so many people do. It just, I cannot believe how many people, and I don't know. It's one of my pet peeves, really, that kind of annoys me is when there is a problem that comes up and the first reaction is, "Told you, Amazon doesn't want us anymore. That's it. It's the writing on the wall. It's all done. There's nothing that we can do about it." It's this helplessness. It's like, "Come on, everybody. Guys and gals, let's go. You can do this. Figure out a problem, sleep on it, ask other people." I'm not saying that asking people for help is a bad thing. I'm just saying that, just complaining about, a challenge or an obstacle and letting that prevent you from being able to move further ahead is just by definition going to stop your business, whatever you're doing. So always be willing to at least try to find a way forward. And yeah, kind of a long sort of rant video. I apologize. Let me know if you all liked it. Yeah, because I do enjoy making these videos that sort of more long form that aren't necessarily super edited and they're kind of just what I'm thinking at the time. I think they could be helpful and they could be valuable, but let me know down below in the comment section. And yeah, I'll see you all on the next one.